At any age, describe your son, Stephen.
Strong-willed, determined.
Can we use the hose in the front, please?
No, we don't need to.
I want to do it in the front yard. Please. 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 Please.
Competitive.
So I can't remember.
Know-it-all.
So, what's on your mind?
Wonderful. Loving. Gentle. Smart. Very intelligent. He will laugh at anything. Especially if it's stupid. And is just... He is such an amazing, awesome kid. I can't imagine what my life would be like without him in it. I went through a lot to get him here. And I wouldn't change a thing. He is all boy. He's rough and tumble. I watch him wrestle with Jim to the point where Jim's yelling, "Ow, I surrender, uncle, uncle." And yet, my mom, who's 83 years old and is extremely frail, he is so gentle and tender. You know, I've stood outside of a store for 3 minutes or 4 minutes while he's holding the door for everybody. And just standing there holding it open, and I'm like, "Steven, let somebody else hold the door now. We need to go," you know. So he is turning into an incredible young man from this strong-willed little know-it-all who would never give up. If he wanted something, he would pester until he got it, until we'd give in just because it was funny.
Please, 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 please. Stop typing.
To a very determined young man who's figuring out life. And I'm very proud of him. You know, when he said the other night that he wants to set a standard for himself that he wants to live up to, I don't know that I've ever been as proud. Because I didn't tell him to do that. He's 14, he'll be 15 next month. And it's bittersweet because my baby is growing up. But because I like who he's turning into, it's okay. And I'm going to cry if we don't change subjects now.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your relationships with people in general. You tend to hold people at arm's length until you get to know them. Tell me why that is.
I've been burned. I've been burned by people. I've been used and sometimes used up by people because my heart is big and I will give you the shirt off my back. Many times that's been taken advantage of. And, you know, I talk about, you know, growing up and everything, and for the most part it was fine, but there were times that growing up wasn't real easy. I'm not going to get into all that, but it's just made me very leery of people. I know a lot of people will trust you until you break that trust. For me, I'm the opposite. I'll let you earn the trust until you blow it. But once you blow it, it's done. But I'm not going to trust you until you've earned it. I'll just kind of keep you at arm's length. And you can work your way in. But I don't let people in easily. But on the flip side of that, I have friends from kindergarten, from 8th grade, you know, Julie for what, 18 years? You know, once you're inside that inner circle, I take a lot. You know, I will get frustrated with you, but I don't walk away easily. Because I figure if I've decided that it's okay to let you in, I need to work to keep it. Because for me, I don't believe in throwing things away until you try and fix it. Whether that is, you know, a marriage or a friendship or whatever relationship. Relationships are not disposable. Not to me. You know, they need to be held dear and try to fix it if something gets broken.
Tell me about some of your passions and activities. You already talked about signing. Can we talk a little bit about theater, cooking, knitting, anything else?
Well, you and I met doing theater. So that to me is like really high on the list. I love doing theater. I've done lighting for I don't know how many years now. Have done many shows. My favorite thing to do is lighting. But I've produced, whatever, been most things backstage. I don't like being on stage. I don't like attention. Which is really funny that I'm sitting here doing this and I don't like attention. But our theater company that we had with the kids was probably something I'm one of the most proud of, because not because of necessarily the show we did or anything like that, but because of the relationships we had with the kids. You know, they loved us, we loved them, and that to me was important. Working with teenagers is not always easy. But it's something that's worth it. You know, watching them grow and figure out who they are. So theater is important. I homeschool Steven. So, you know, I enjoy learning new things and figuring out new ways to pique his interest, because he is not a kid that likes school. Bookwork to him is, you may as well, you know, string him up by his thumbnails, because he hates it. And yet, he will learn more in a 2-hour documentary than I could teach him about something in 6 months from a book. You know, so finding new ways to do that with him. Obviously, I love knitting. I love crocheting. Anything yarn. All yarn. Whatever. I shouldn't say that, because there are some yarns that I don't like. I've made all kinds of different things. I love working with the looms. These are the knitting looms. These are the Cindy Wood. I think these are my favorite looms. I like the quality and everything with them. I like the knitting board, which are these. But I also have my trusty plastic bright colored nifty knitters, which I don't have one of those with me right now. But you know, like I say, all yarns. Ruffle yarn, curly yarn. I don't care for wools a lot because they make my hands itch, so I don't like working with those a lot. But I'll do them if I need to. I've done felting with the wools. But I think my favorite thing is the knitting looms and crocheting. I think those are probably what I find the most peaceful and relaxing. And because of being a caregiver from an elderly parent, and sometimes that gets taxing, I need that diversion. You know, because I have months that I can't go out of the house, I need to be able to do things that keep me busy, because these 4 walls start closing in quickly. You know, so baby blankets, Afghans. I've got somewhere around here one of those big Ziploc jumbo bags filled with full-size Afghans. You know, I do hats. See, Dina? Hats. So I try and find new patterns. Right now I'm putting together basically like a swatch bucket where I'm taking all different stitches and all different patterns and I'm making, small swatches. So that when I go to try and figure out what I want to do next with something, I can flip through that and go, oh, I like that pattern, and I can pull it out and I already know what it's going to look like because I've made a little sample of it. So I'm working on that just for something to keep me busy because right now Mom's doing therapy, so I'm constantly going to therapy with her and everything. So I don't have time to really start a huge project. I just finished 3 or 4 huge projects, getting ready for new babies in the family. So I'm kind of trying to dial it down a little bit. But again, crocheting, knitting, I'm learning some new crafts, doing new things. I see stuff on Pinterest and on Facebook and, oh, I want to try that. So I do. Anything to keep my hands busy and keep my mind occupied.
Speaking of making things, tell me about your interest in cooking. How that even started.
My aunt, basically, she and I would cook. The first thing she ever taught me to make was beans and weenies, basically. Where you take the can of beans, you dump it in the pan, you cut up the hot dog, you throw it in, and you're done. I think I was about 8. And it was fun, and we would go to church on Sunday mornings, and when we go to church before we would leave, they would put Sunday dinner in the oven, and they would prepare it Saturday night, and she and I and Mom, sometimes Mom, would get it ready, and then Sunday morning would go in the oven, and when we get home from church, we'd pull it out, and I'd help her fix it all. And when Mom remarried and she moved into an apartment, she would let me get creative. I could do whatever I want, And I remember one time, Lois, my girlfriend from 8th grade, and I decided to fix an anniversary dinner for Mom and Dad. I am amazed that they ate it. It was, I think back on it now, and I don't know that I would have loved Stephen enough had he made that for me to eat it.
What was on the menu?
Steak Diane, which is basically very, 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 very rare steak. I mean, like, waft it over the stove a couple of times.
I think you could kill people if you don't prepare steak Diane correctly.
Right.
Like blowfish.
Mom ate around the edges because when we made it, the outside was basically charcoal and the inside was raw. I don't know how we did it, but we did. But it looked pretty. You would have been very proud of me. It was plated very pretty. And we had, green beans that I experimented with and didn't cook them like I normally do and had tried something new. So they were really crunchy. If you know my mother, which most of you don't, some do, my mother does not do crunchy green beans. She wants them cooked Southern style, done, and
In bacon grease.
in
right?
bacon
Yeah.
grease. Basically, the moral of that story: don't fix steak Diane for one of the first things you ever cook, because it won't turn out well. But once we got married, I was able to experiment. You were a little more adventurous. And I basically learned to just use what I had. So, you have all the condiments on the door, the, ketchup, mustard, Dijon mustard, soy sauce, salad dressings, whatever is on the door. I just pull them off and make whatever sauce is going to go over whatever, I very rarely ever follow a recipe to a T. I make my own. If I try something in a restaurant that I like, I will work to recreate it at home because it's what I do. And so now I've gotten to a point where I have things that people really like. My meatloaf is requested everywhere, and I don't think too much about it. It's just meatloaf, but everybody else loves it. So I take it, I like experimenting and trying new things. I made strawberry pie today, and it was only the second time I ever made it, and it was really good. So I enjoy finding new things.
Good. Now, I know you're an avid reader. Tell them a little bit about some of the authors you like maybe the styles of, types of books you like to read, the types of shows you like to watch, movies, it all kind of melts together.
Well, I'm not really a romance kind of girl. I don't like romance novels for the most part. Not strictly romance. I mean, you'll never find me reading a Harlequin or, one of those. They're just not my thing.
Not a Louis L'Amour girl.
No, I'm not a chick flick girl either, Put on Jurassic World. Give me Independence Day. Give me Star Wars, My favorite TV show of all time, NCIS. Well, Blacklist is starting to really work its way in there, but still NCIS. And I tend to do the same thing with reading. James Patterson, J.D. Robb, that style. I think where I vary from that, I love Karen Kingsbury and Wanda Brunstetter or whatever her name is, the Amish books, the Amish romance, and the Amish fiction, I should say, because they're not all romance. Those I really like. I enjoy reading them. I can't get enough. I'll read them over and over and over again. So, but
How about some performing artists, like either singers or actors?
Garth Brooks is my favorite. I'm sorry, I love Garth Brooks. But I also like a lot of Christian, growing up in a Baptist school, we weren't supposed to, now, let's be real, we weren't supposed to listen to anything other than Christian music. Yeah, whatever. That, not so much. I never got into like heavy metal or, goth or like headbanging rock stuff. I like the Southern gospel and the Christian music. But I also like, the Garth Brooks and I don't even know who. It's just
Alfie.
Yeah, I like Alfie Boe. I watched him do the 25th anniversary of Les Mis. And I love his voice. It's like melting butter, So I'm very much like Broadway music, show tunes. I love Michael English, who is again a Christian artist. So as far as singers, those are probably my favorite. My favorite actors, Liam Neeson. That Jim knows that. Sorry, I can tell him that because he knows it. He's probably, I won't miss a movie that Liam Neeson is in. I love Harrison Ford. I love the older actors. They're good. To me, they're classic.